welcome to Science with Miss Goldworthy. Today we're going to be going over some of the basics when you first start a lab and really trying to identify some of these variables and apply it to a situation. So our experiment today, or our situation today, is does the type of liquid affect how much it bubbles when baking soda is added? So every experiment starts with a question. So that is our main thing. Based on that question that we're given, we can start to identify the variables and really break down the experiment and come up with a hypothesis. So what I want to do first is identify my independent variable. In your notes, you learned that we also call this the IV for short. So the independent variable is the thing that I am changing on purpose in this experiment. So I'm looking back at my question, does the type of liquid, that is the thing that I want to change on purpose. So for this section, I'm going to fill in for the independent variable the type of liquid. And in this case, I'm just going to create my own since it's not given, but I'm going to say water versus sparkling water. That is the type of liquids we're comparing. I could have more than those two, or I could have different things like soda, lemonade, juice, whatever it may be. Now we need to identify the dependent variable. The dependent variable is the thing that depends on what you're changing for the independent. So we also call this DV for short. So for this, we already said, okay, the type of liquid is the independent. Affects. Now, after the word affect, it's usually your dependent variable that's going to be listed. So how much it bubbles, that is my dependent variable. So I'm going to fill that in. So it says how much it bubbles, or fizzing in this case. And once I've identified those two variables, I'm also going to add in controls. Every experiment, you want to make sure that your results are accurately showing your independent variable. You don't want to change 5 different things and have no real idea of what had an effect on your results. So for controls, there's tons of controls. We really want to try and be specific and list as many as we can. In this case, I just rewrote or wrote out a few of them, but of course there's many more than just what I listed. So in this case, I'm going to put for this, and again, my control variables, we also call these CVs. I put the amount of baking soda I'm adding into each cup. The amount of water or liquid I have in each cup needs to be the same. I don't want to have one cup with 50 milliliters and another with 100 milliliters. I don't want to add 2 tablespoons of baking soda 1 and another I add 3. So we want to keep things the same so we know what kind of liquid had more of an effect. How it's poured in, the type of cup that you're using, it could be the temperature of the liquids. There's tons of different things that we could add to this list, but at least we want to try and shoot for 4 control variables. Now that I have those things broken down, I'm going to use this information to create my hypothesis. A hypothesis is an educated guess, so it's what you think is going to happen. It doesn't matter if you're right or wrong, as long as you follow the format and include everything that I'm asking you. So I'm going to get started here, and I labeled everything with pink lines and a green line to match our independent and dependent. The format for a hypothesis is the if the independent variable affects the dependent variable, then, and you put your thinking here. Now, for my hypothesis, I'm going to say if the type of liquid, so that is going to be my sparkling water versus my regular or just plain water. That is the thing I'm changing on purpose. So if the type of liquid affects the amount it bubbles, or the amount of bubbles that are created, then, and I'm going to put my thinking here. You can put whatever you want. It doesn't have to be the same as mine. I just quickly wrote one out. Then sparkling will fizz the most. So that's what I think is going to happen. And yours, everyone can have a different opinion. That's okay, as long as you're following that same format. So for this experiment, I'm going to actually do this. So I'm going to put in a tablespoon of baking soda into each of the cups here. So I have regular on my left, which may appear different on your side. And then I have sparkling water on the right side. And I'm going to put a tablespoon in each, and I'm going to try and do this as fast as I can, just to see if my hypothesis is correct. Okay, so it's going into regular water. Versus sparkling water. And if you hear that, you can kind of hear the sparkling water fizzing a little bit more. Now I'm just going to use pure observations to see whether or not I'm correct. And based on the amount of like fizzing and bubbles, and it kind of puffed up a little bit more than the regular water, I'm going to say that yes, my hypothesis is correct, that sparkling water does make the baking soda foam or fizz up, bubble more. All right, well, thank you for following along, and I hope you enjoyed our little mini experiment and how we apply all of these knowledge kind of pieces that we're learning to a situation. Bye, guys.